You see, the very first thing you need to understand when it comes to getting what you want from a woman is this. You must know exactly what you want, and you must own it without apology. A lot of men stumble right here. They walk into situations with women confused, hesitant, and hoping she'll somehow lead the way. That's not how it works. Women are drawn to clarity, we respect it, we feel safe around it, and we respond to it. If you don't know what you want, how can she trust you to lead? How can she believe in your words if they change every other day? Now let me tell you something real. Clarity is confidence. There's nothing more attractive than a man who walks in, knows who he is, and isn't afraid to express what he's looking for. Not in an arrogant or pushy way, but in a grounded, sure of himself kind of way. And when I say own it, I mean own it without seeking validation. Don't try to fit into what you think she wants to hear. Women can smell inauthenticity a mile away. Be bold enough to say, this is who I am, this is what I'm about, and this is where I'm going. That energy commands respect. But let me also make something clear. Owning what you want doesn't mean you bulldoze your way through a conversation or demand her agreement. It means you show up with your intentions intact. Whether you're looking for a meaningful relationship, something casual, or even just clarity in a friendship, say it, and say it early. Don't hide it under layers of mixed signals or passive hints. That's where men lose the plot. Women are intuitive, yes, but we appreciate when you make things easy to understand. It shows maturity, it shows strength. Sometimes men think playing mysterious or holding back their true desires will make them more appealing. That kind of emotional manipulation doesn't work long term. It builds mistrust. Instead, focus on being direct in a way that's respectful. You'd be surprised how many women are willing to meet you halfway when they feel you're being real with them from the jump. And here's something I say all the time. When you walk in knowing who you are and what you want, you give her something solid to respond to. You take the guesswork out of the interaction. You stop relying on tricks or charm, and you start leading from a place of presence. That's powerful, that's rare, and that's how you begin to get what you want from women. Not through manipulation, not through pressure, but through absolute certainty in yourself. So before you approach any woman, ask yourself, do I even know what I truly want from this situation? And if the answer is yes, do I have the courage to say it? Because that right there, that's where everything begins. Most men don't realize how much power lies in simply listening. And I mean really listening, not just hearing her words, but tuning in to what she's trying to communicate underneath them. You want to know how to get what you want from a woman 99% of the time? Start by closing your mouth and opening your ears. That's where the real game is played. Women are expressive beings. We speak with more than just our words. Our tone, our pauses, our body language, they're all giving you signals if only you'd stop trying to lead every conversation and start paying attention. So many men are quick to respond, quick to defend, quick to persuade, but they miss what's being offered in the silence. Listening isn't passive, it's powerful. And when a woman feels truly heard, she feels seen. That's when her guard drops. That's when she starts leaning in instead of pulling away. But if you're always trying to jump in with your point, or you're too busy thinking of what to say next, you're not connected. You're just performing. And women don't fall for performances. We fall for presence. Let me tell you something honest. Most women aren't even expecting a man to have all the answers. What we do crave, though, is emotional safety. And one of the fastest ways to create that safety is by being present enough to listen without judgment or interruption. You'd be amazed how many men talk themselves out of a woman's interest just because they don't know when to stop talking. Sometimes the most attractive thing you can do is sit in the silence and let her unfold. Now, I'm not saying you should be passive or shrink yourself in the conversation. No. Listening isn't about losing your voice. It's about gaining insight. When you really listen to a woman, you begin to understand what matters to her. You pick up on her values, her fears, her dreams, and guess what? That information is priceless if you actually want to build a real connection or influence her in any meaningful way. But you won't get there by dominating the conversation or treating it like a debate. A man who listens is a man who leads with intention. He doesn't guess, he learns. He doesn't assume, he asks. And when you listen with your whole self, your eyes, your body language, your attention, she feels it, she remembers it, because it's rare. We live in a world where everyone's trying to be heard, but very few are actually listening. If you can be the exception, you stand out immediately. So the next time you're sitting with a woman, resist the urge to impress her with words. Impress her with your attention. Let her feel that she doesn't have to compete for space in the conversation. Let her feel seen, valued, and understood. Because when a woman feels understood, she naturally wants to give more of herself. And that is how you start getting what you want, from a place of deep connection, not shallow performance. There's something magnetic about a man who is confident. But let me be clear, I'm talking about real confidence, not arrogance, not ego. Real confidence comes from within. It's calm, it's steady, and it doesn't need to shout to be heard. Women know the difference. We feel it. You can't fake it. And the moment you try to, it backfires. If you want to get what you want from a woman 99% of the time, you have to understand this balance. Confidence draws us in. Arrogance pushes us away. Too many men confuse being loud, flashy, or dominant with being attractive. They think they have to control the room, dominate the conversation, or show off to get attention. But the truth is, those things might get you noticed, but they rarely get you respected. What actually wins with women is presence. That quiet, grounded strength that says, I'm enough, I don't need to prove anything. A man who walks into a room and doesn't try too hard, that's the man who stands out. Because his confidence isn't dependent on anyone's reaction. Women don't want a man who needs to be the center of attention all the time. We want a man who knows who he is, even when no one is clapping for him. That's the kind of confidence that makes us feel safe, that makes us want to follow your lead, that makes us trust you. And I always say this, confidence isn't about pretending to have it all together. It's about being secure enough to admit when you don't. That's real strength. That's rare. Now, don't get me wrong, confidence means you believe in yourself, yes. But it also means you're not threatened by other people shining. You don't need to compete. You don't need to win every argument. You don't need to dominate every moment. And that energy, that is what attracts women on a deep level, because it tells us he's not performing, he's just being. On the other hand, when a man slips into arrogance, it usually means there's something insecure underneath. And women can sense it. It shows up in how you talk about others, how you react when challenged, how you carry yourself when you're not in control. That energy repels us because it signals instability, even if it's dressed up like strength. So the key is to stay grounded in who you are. Let your actions speak. Be assertive, yes, but never aggressive. Be proud of who you are, but remain teachable. Speak with authority, but always with respect. Because when you show up confident without needing to prove anything, women feel it. We're drawn to it, and when we trust that energy, we're far more open to receiving what you bring, whether that's leadership, love, or something more. Remember, it's not about being the loudest man in the room. It's about being the most secure. And when that kind of confidence meets real connection, there's almost nothing you can't get from the women you interact with. Let's talk about communication. Because if you want to get what you want from women, 99% of the time, you need to learn how to communicate with purpose and honesty. Not just talking for the sake of it. Not just saying what you think she wants to hear, but speaking with intention, with clarity, and with truth. So many men underestimate the power of their words. They don't realize that what they say and how they say it can either build trust or break it completely. Women value words that carry weight. We listen beyond the surface. So when a man speaks, we're not just hearing the words, we're feeling the intention behind them. Are you being real, or are you just performing? Are you speaking your truth, or are you saying whatever you think will get you what you want in the moment? Because I promise you, we know the difference. Honesty is incredibly attractive. And I'm not just talking about being honest when it's easy. I'm talking about being honest even when it's uncomfortable. Here's what I want you to understand. Clear communication creates trust, and trust is the gateway to influence. When you tell a woman what you really want, without fear, without manipulation, you give her something she can actually respond to. She may not always agree. She may not always give you what you're asking for. But what you gain is far more powerful than control. You gain respect, and from respect, everything else becomes possible. Now, let me say this clearly. Being honest doesn't mean being reckless. Some men use honesty as an excuse to be rude or insensitive. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about being intentional with your words, speaking with clarity, but also with empathy, sharing your truth in a way that still honors her humanity. When you do that, you create space for openness, for connection, for mutual understanding. So many relationships fall apart simply because no one ever says what they actually mean. People dance around their needs, their boundaries, their expectations, hoping the other person will somehow figure it out. But women don't want to play guessing games. If you want her attention, her trust, her loyalty, then speak up. Be clear about your intentions. Whether it's casual, serious, or somewhere in between, say it. Don't let fear of rejection silence your truth. You see, a man who communicates with purpose shows that he values both himself and the woman in front of him. He's not trying to manipulate an outcome, he's trying to build something real, even if it's just an honest moment. And that kind of honesty, it builds attraction, it builds connection. And yes, it gets you what you want, because women naturally respond to what feels grounded and safe. So speak with your chest, but also speak with your heart. Be bold, but never careless, because when your words align with your truth and your truth is rooted in respect, there's almost nothing you can't accomplish in your interactions with women. If you really want to get what you want from a woman, 99% of the time, you need to understand this. You must be willing to give first, without keeping score. And I know that might sound counterintuitive to some men, especially those who've been hurt before or who feel like giving means getting advantage of. But hear me out. The way to a woman's heart, the way to real influence, real connection, and lasting value is by showing up from a place of abundance, not scarcity. When you lead with genuine effort, with generosity, with sincerity, not to manipulate, not to impress, but simply because it reflects who you are, you set yourself apart from most men out there. A lot of men give with expectations. They offer attention, affection, or even money, but secretly they're keeping score. I did this, so she should do that. That's not giving, that's a transaction. And women can feel it. We always know when something is given with strings attached. It creates pressure. It makes us pull back, not lean in. But when a man gives from a place of security, when he's not doing it to earn something, but because it's just who he is, it shifts the entire energy. That's when we begin to trust. That's when we begin to open up, because we feel safe, not indebted. Let me be clear though, giving isn't just about material things. It's about presence, it's about attention, it's about kindness, respect, and effort. Showing up consistently, remembering the little things, being emotionally available even when it's inconvenient. Those are the kinds of things that matter to a woman. Those are the things that stick with us. And when a man does these things without trying to score points, we see it. We feel it, and most importantly, we want to give back. See, real value isn't proven through what you take, it's proven through what you're willing to offer without fear. That's where confidence meets emotional intelligence. A man who gives freely, but also wisely, communicates that he knows his worth. He's not afraid to give because he's not afraid of lack. He doesn't operate from fear. And that kind of energy is magnetic. Women are wired to reciprocate when we feel seen and cared for. It's in our nature. When a woman feels valued, she wants to give more. More time, more attention, more intimacy, more commitment. Whatever it is you're hoping to receive, it often begins with what you're willing to offer first. But again, not as a strategy, as a standard. So if you're sitting there wondering why she's pulling away, ask yourself, am I giving from the right place? Am I showing up fully without expecting her to fill in my emotional gaps? Because when you give from wholeness instead of neediness, she feels it. And 9 times out of 10, she'll give even more in return, not because she has to, but because she wants to. And that's when you start truly getting what you want. From a place of mutual desire, not forced obligation, one of the most powerful things you can ever do as a man is know when to walk away. I can't stress this enough. If you want to get what you want from women 99% of the time, you must understand the value of your presence and never stay where your respect is missing. This is the part most men struggle with. Because let's be real, when you're emotionally invested, when you're attracted to her, when you've been trying hard to win her over, walking away feels like losing. But the truth is, sometimes walking away is exactly how you win. You see, women pay close attention to how a man handles being treated poorly or being overlooked. And whether she says it out loud or not, she's always observing how you carry yourself when things don't go your way. Do you beg for her attention? Do you start overcompensating, trying to prove your worth? Or do you hold your ground and recognize that your time, your energy, your love, it's valuable too? A man who knows his worth doesn't chase what disrespects him. He doesn't force a vibe that clearly isn't there, and he definitely doesn't try to convince a woman to see what she refuses to acknowledge. That kind of man stands out because that kind of man moves from a place of self-respect. And here's what happens when a woman sees that. When she sees you're willing to walk away from a situation that's not serving you, it forces her to evaluate how she's showing up. Sometimes that space you create becomes the mirror she needs. Now, I'm not saying walk away at the first sign of conflict or discomfort. No. Relationships of any kind take effort, communication, and compromise. But when it becomes clear that your presence isn't being valued, when you're being played, disrespected, or used, that's your cue. That's when you have to step back, not as a punishment to her, but as protection for yourself. Too many men stay hoping things will change, hoping she'll come around, hoping she'll finally see what you bring to the table. But if a woman can't recognize your value without you begging her to, then that's not someone who's ready for what you offer. And the longer you stay in a space like that, the more you chip away at your own self-worth. You deserve to be somewhere you're respected, where your effort is matched, where your presence is appreciated, not taken for granted. When you walk away from what doesn't serve you, you make room for what does. And trust me, nothing attracts the right woman more than a man who refuses to settle. It sends a clear message. I'm not here to prove myself. I'm here to share myself, but only with someone who values what I bring. That kind of energy, that's unshakable, that's powerful. And yes, that's exactly how you start getting what you want from women. Not through control, but through unwavering self-respect.